I'm gonna give you the 3 best strength exercises to improve your jerk, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you want to become a better athlete, you want to be more explosive, you want to become a better Olympic weightlifter, you want to get stronger and run faster, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. So for the last 10 years, I've been able to spend a lot of time at various Olympic weightlifting competitions. And in this past year, in 2019, I was able to spend a lot of time at the Junior World Championships in Fiji and the Senior World Championships in Thailand. And I sat down and I spent a lot of time analyzing how were people missing lifts in the snatch, and more specifically, how were they missing lifts in the clean and jerk? And I spent time analyzing over a dozen different sessions. And throughout over a dozen different sessions between the Junior World Championships and the Senior World Championships, I saw over 162 missed lifts, specifically because the athlete missed the jerk. And so what I ended up doing is I sat there, I said, okay, there's 3 attempts in the clean and jerk. If they racked the clean, they stood it up, and they missed the jerk, I counted that as a missed lift. But out of all of the lifts in the clean and jerk, 55% of the lifts were actually made. So out of those missed lifts, over 85% of the missed lifts in the clean and jerk were specifically because of the jerk. And this is posing a huge problem for a lot of different athletes. And one of the things that sucks is that if you don't have an athlete, or if you're a weightlifter who really struggles with the jerk, you can stand a cleanup and it's basically a drive and pray situation. You're sitting there wondering, are you ever gonna be able to make this jerk? And one of the things as a coach is that I've been able to coach an athlete like Haley Reichert, who was the youngest female to ever clean and jerk double body weight in the history of American weightlifting, right? She's a 49 kilo weightlifter who's jerked over 110 kilos multiple times in training, and she's only ever missed 1 jerk in her entire career, and that was 103 kilos. So one of the biggest positives behind having an athlete like Haley is that you know if she stands that cleanup, it's over. You know she's gonna hit that jerk, and that's a huge boost of confidence from a coaching perspective. It's a huge boost of confidence from that athlete specifically. You stand up the clean, you rack it, you stand it up, you drive out of the hole, you're gonna make that jerk and you're gonna dominate on the platform. And a lot of competitions are won and lost during the clean and jerk. So what are those key aspects behind the actual jerk? We've gotta have really good dynamic trunk control. When we're dipping in the jerk, we've got to have dynamic trunk control. We can't be swaying back and forth, okay? We've got to have really good tension, and we've got to have good explosiveness. We've also got to have really good mobility in our hips, really good mobility in our knee, and specifically in our shoulders and our ankles. So what are those key strength movements behind improving the jerk? Coming in at that number 3 spot is gonna be the double bounce front squat. And this is an exercise that almost no one does. And what's sad about it is that if we can think about hitting the bottom position of a front squat and getting a little bounce and driving up out of that position, what it ends up doing is, one, it increases your strength in your legs tremendously. But on top of that, it also correlates to a really strong torso. If we're able to double bounce with a front squat load, which is typically going to be higher than our clean and jerk, well, now all of a sudden, if we have good posture out of the hole, that's gonna transfer over to the dip. And if you can think about, at the bottom of a dip, there's a lot of energy that's going into the barbell. There's a lot of energy that can pull your torso forward. So if you're executing that double bounce front squat in training, let's say you're doing 6 doubles, and you're working at 110, 115% of your best clean and jerk, now that tension and that trunk control is gonna transfer over to the bottom of the dip. On top of that, your legs are gonna get stupid strong. And this is an exercise, this is a movement that Norik Vardanian taught me that his dad utilized quite a bit. If you watch him clean and jerk at 82.5 kilos, he clean and jerks over 220 kilos. And when he catches it, he does a little double bounce, he gets out of the hole and he smashes his jerk. And a lot of that has to do with the strength and the torso control that he had from executing a double bounce front squat. Coming in at that number 2 spot is gonna be a more traditional exercise, and that's the push press. And there's a lot of different reasons why I like the push press. And a lot of it has to factor into what are the elements behind the dip and what's the element behind the dip and drive in the jerk. We've got to have good dynamic trunk control. We've got to be able to drive in a very linear manner. We've got to be able to stay flat-footed over a long period of time. And that's something that the push press teaches us, okay? One of the big factors behind a push press is that we'll see lifters in training almost slide backwards. And what that does is it shows us that their trunk is getting too far back behind their hips. So then their center of mass is moving and they'll miss that push press forward. So one, that's gonna show us a technical problem in their dip and drive. 2, it's gonna show us that they are not driving as linear as they possibly can, and they can improve that by staying flat-footed over a long period of time. So the push press is gonna help us carry over and understand technical movements from a slower perspective, which makes it a little bit easier to correct. On top of that, a lot of lifters don't know how to breathe when they're doing a jerk. They're over there hyperventilating, going, you know, making all these weird noises instead of just sitting there filling their gut with air and drive. And that's something that you can practice regularly when it comes down to the push press. You fill that belt up, you push your belly button into your belt, and then you get a nice tight dip and a really long drive. And that big long drive from the push press is also going to improve your lockout in that split jerk position. So before we head into that number 1 exercise, if you want more information behind our training system that we use at Garage Strength, the parabolic periodization system, you can click on the link down below and you can learn from a whole course and book that we've put together to help you improve your Olympic weightlifting knowledge. So coming in at that number 1 strength exercise to improve your split jerk is a movement that I learned from Piros Dimas. So it's a movement that I learned well before talking with Piros and spending weeks upon weeks at various world championships with him, but it's an exercise that I had never really utilized with my Olympic weightlifters. And it's something that's gonna help your weightlifters learn how to stay very rigid, very upright with their trunk, very controlled with their breathing. It's a movement that's gonna help them feel that upright position that's gonna lead to a better drive on their jerk so that they're not missing everything really far forward or even behind themselves if their chest is getting too far back on the drive. So what is that exercise? That exercise is the zombie squat. So when Piros mentioned this to me, one of the biggest aha moments I had was sitting there thinking I had been doing an entire block of zombie squats myself personally. I had been utilizing zombie squats to train some of my best shot putters that I have that have jerked 500 pounds, like Sam Mattis, who's a discus thrower that has jerked 500 pounds. And we had been utilizing zombie squats to improve that dynamic trunk control, to improve that trunk position. And this was an exercise that Piros mentioned was, hey, this is something that's gonna teach your lifters how to stay much more upright, to stay more balanced over that flat foot, to squeeze in the gut and to control their breath at the top. When they're squatting, they should have a full breath of air, squat, come up, and don't exhale until you're at the top of the lift. And this carries over to the way that you execute your breathing during the dip as well. So zombie squats can go a really, really long way in helping our weightlifters have better tension in their trunk, have better dip positioning so that they have that big, long, explosive drive. And I recommend doing zombie squats once every other block or every 2 blocks for 5 to 7 sets of 2 to 4 reps. So if you want more information about how we program in our parabolic periodization system of training, you can click on the link down below in the description. You can head over to garagestrength.com and pick that up today. If you want more information behind Olympic weightlifting training, you can click on this video right here. Until next time, guys, Peace.